Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. We have Swadeep Nigam.
Yes, sir.
He's a candidate for Nevada's University District Regent number 3. Jim, you got anything?
Yeah, just a little bit. I guess, I say this all the time. I probably should stay off Facebook, but I can't. So,
yeah. I was going to stay off Facebook for a while, and I can't do it.
I know. Well, I think...
It's not that I don't want to do it. It's like I can't do it.
Right.
Because everything surrounds Facebook,
Well, it just seems like every time I swear I'm going to stay off Facebook, somebody says something that pisses me off, and then,
You're right back on there. They drag you right back in.
Right. I have to reply. But I just think it's interesting. Just political season is always so enlightening, and I say that mockingly because it's not enlightening at all. And I'm just going to keep saying the same thing I've been saying, but I'll make it brief for this time. Like, you can't blame politicians for being politicians. Yeah. The voters and. Like, I do really like the fact that we have social media because it gets everybody's voice out there. With that being said, I think actually it's exposing a lot of ignorance. But at the same time, I guess it's good that at least we're having a conversation.
That's true.
Now, me personally, I don't give a shit about conversation. I'd rather you come up with solutions, but that's fine. If that makes people feel better, fine. But I just think it's interesting that, so Biden, Harris ticket, they're closet racist. They're actually more racist than Trump and Pence, and vice versa, and this is all I hear. And it's like, well, personally, I think all 4 of them have plenty of skeletons. And honestly, that's the best 4 we can come up with in this country. The reason why you have those 4 to choose from is because good people, for the most part, will not run for office because they know they're going to be slaughtered by the media, and they know they're never going to have a personal life, and they're going to be scrutinized to death. So good people, for the most part, run from politics. But fortunately for us on this show, we have the opportunity to have people that are willing to come in, candidates that are still stand-up guys and women and are willing to come in. So Swadeep, I want to thank you very much for having the courage to run for office. It's not the easiest thing. And I also want to thank you very much for being willing to run for State Board of Regent. Many voters don't know what that is. It's a very important position. And through the next 30 minutes, hour, however long we have here with you, I want to thank you very much for coming in.
With that said, Mr. Nigam.
That's correct. Yeah.
Is he like that guy in Walking Dead? Is that Nigam? That's Nigam.
I don't know.
The guy in The Walking Dead with the bat.
I don't know. Baseball bat or a cricket bat?
cricket bat. That was a baseball bat. Mr. Nigam, you were running for University State Regent District number 3, correct?
That's correct.
Could you give us a little bio about yourself? And I believe, I'm a firm believer that education is a plus running for University Regent. I mean, because a university regent is supposed to be a role model to people looking for higher education. So that means your education level should be surpass a lot of people. So could you give us your educational background, your bio, and your boundary lines, please?
Okay. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Jim, for inviting me over for such an important interview here for the first time. I've been out because it's not a normal campaign season. First thing, it's a new normal. So not many places I can go and campaign, but thank you again for inviting me over. Okay, my bio. Well, I've been here for over 35 years in Las Vegas. And
35 years in
yes,
Vegas?
Yes,
Okay.
and I've been actively involved in the local community, politically as well as socially.
And I've seen you involved in the community as well.
Yes. So, a little about my background. I moved here from Ohio, where I was a student, and I was actively involved in student politics as well, at the university over there in Dayton, Ohio.
Right.
So my background is, my academic background is, I have a master's in applied economics and MBA in finance. My professional background is in finance, economics, accounting, and investment management.
Oh, wow.
Currently, I work for Paul Padda Law. It's one of the premier law firm here in town.
What do you do for Mr. Padda?
Oh, I'm a director of business development and strategic initiatives. Basically, a lot of politics. We are very much involved in some of the races, judicial races.
Okay.
It's not about the injury, it's about the recovery, right?
That's correct. And we
You can tell we watch.
That's true. But Paul Padda Law is not only on personal injury, we do immigration as well, and we do criminal defense as well. And one of our former judges here, Tony Abbott-Angelo, works for Paul Padda Law. So we have different division within Paul Padda Law. But
Did he get any taller, Judge Abbott-Angelo?
well,
He's
probably he's
still
getting shorter with the workload he has right now. So anyhow, my professional background, I currently work for Paul Padda Law. Before that, I was with the public sector, so I understand the public sector finance. I started the budgeting and rate division at the water district, and when I left, I was managing close to $1 billion in annual budget for
$1 billion.
Yes, billion with a B, because of the massive capital projects we have undertaken in the last couple of years. So when you turn on your tap at home, you get the clean and good quality water. So
Like this real water right here?
better than real water. Anyhow, so I started the budgeting division there. Back then it was close to 150 million, but by the time I left, it's close to $1 billion in capital projects as well as operation and maintenance. Before that, I was in healthcare. I was a financial services manager for a major healthcare company here in town.
Which one? Could you say?
It went under now, they don't exist anymore. It used to be MediVisit back then. So I was managing their financial, accounting, investments, and other anything related to accounting and finance for their western region. With my responsibilities we were a national company back then.
Gotcha.
So that company doesn't exist anymore. I don't know what happened because I left long back.
Right.
So that's my professional background. My political background, I've been actively involved in politics and in the community as well. So, and why I'm running? Because I care for education. As you said, higher education is a gateway to economic prosperity, not for individual student, but for the families as well as for the community as a whole.
You come from an educational family, isn't your
That's
parents
correct. Yes,
a professor or something like that?
That's correct. My father was a professor at UNLV in international business. He was a Fulbright scholar, so he taught all over the world, in Europe, in Caribbean. And I traveled with him as well. My uncle, my sister, they were all professors with PhDs. My brother taught at University of Wisconsin at one time. Now he's in private sector. So I understand the business of education and how important it is for the economic prosperity of any community.
So your entire family's higher education?
That's correct, yes.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 4, including... So
and they're all in?
At one time or the other. I was also a graduate teaching assistant or research assistant at the university in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, really?
While pursuing my master's,
Okay. So what degrees do you currently hold?
Oh, I have a Bachelor in accounting with honors, then master's in applied economics and MBA in finance.
Oh, wow. So you're a little smarty pants, huh?
Not really. There are a lot of smart people than me.
So one question that I have to,
No, go ahead.
Well, no, it's important to get to. So like we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I mean, the listeners and viewers, I hope understand this, but like gerrymandering is crazy. We all know that. But so can you give like boundaries?
Oh yeah, my boundaries
what
is
your boundaries are.
some portion of Henderson, but majority of it's in Las Vegas. So I'm running for District 3. It's not the same as Congressional District 3.
Right.
It's a Board of Regent for the university system, District 3. My boundaries start actually from south. It's Anthem on Eastern, comes all the way north up to Spring Mountain.
Gotcha.
And on the west side, it's I-15, and then some portion of Green Valley Ranch, with 145,000 active voters, which is almost 3 to 4 times bigger than any assembly district.
Okay. Could you tell us what issues you believe face our higher education today?
Yeah, especially here in the state of Nevada, there are many issues, but the problem is...
And your plan.
Yeah,
your plan.
Okay. And the problem is not many members of our community, 2 million population, understands higher education. And my experience is I'm still involved with, I know a lot of professors at university, at UNLV. And what I've noticed and what I've experienced, most of the families are involved with their kids' education from K through 12.
Right.
But once they graduate out of high school,
They're on their own.
they're on their own.
Unless daddy and mommy's flipping the bill.
Even then, they don't get actively involved. Go to a school board meeting, there are always parents talking about the issues impacting their kids' education.
Right.
But no one knows that Board of Regents exist for the higher education. You will never see any parents in any of these board meetings.
Is it a public forum?
This is a public forum.
Do the students know about these meetings?
I'm not sure. Even students are not there. Sometimes elected members of the student union or the government,
student
they
union.
are there. They are there, but not much involvement. So
Okay.
that's one issue where higher education have to publicize, hey, we exist.
Right.
And a school board, this is like a school board, Board of Regent is like a school board member, but at a state level.
Right.
Currently, there are 13 Board of Regents, and there's only one Board of Regent to manage the higher education system. While school boards are based on county. Clark County has its own school board. Washoe County has its own school board. So there are 17 counties with 17 school board
So
members.
what you're saying is whatever the university state regent does as far as amendments and they vote, it affects UNLV, it affects UNR, it affects
Community colleges,
the
State College.
What they call it's not CCSN anymore. It's Community College of
colleges.
Nevada.
Yeah, there are 4 of them.
How about University of Phoenix?
No, that's a private university. But Nevada system of higher education have 2 universities, 4 community college, Nevada State College, and 1 very well-known institute, specialized institute which no one knows, Desert Research Institute.
Okay.
That's part of the NSHE too. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's a smaller system compared to California. Okay. California has 67 or 68 board members, regent, because they have 3 systems. One for University of California system, then California State University system, and then community colleges system. Here we have 7 institutes. It's not that big a system. So there's only one system with 13 board members, all elected from across the state.
Did you get a PhD or no?
No.
Okay.
My dad was disappointed that I didn't go because I got a job, so I started working.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had Dr. Nick Spiritos, who's also running for a regent in another district, and he was saying to us that what he wants to see happen is he wants to bring make Nevada, like Nevada is the capital for entertainment. He wanted to make Nevada the capital for education, and he wanted to bring the medical field and explode the medical field here in our state. What do you want to bring? What do you want to see happen with our state education?
I agree with Dr. Nick, about his plan, especially in the medical field. We just started UNLV School of Medicine, which will be having first graduating class will be next year. and being an entertainment, and there's been talk going on for many years before School of Medicine came here to existence. They were talking about medical tourism. So medical tourism could be a big player, and I know, I've traveled the world. I know a lot of people from across the world come to US for their medical care, but they won't come to Las Vegas for both, for medical as well as entertainment.
Right.
We can provide both because now we have a School of Medicine. At UNR, School of Medicine was there, but UNLV School of Medicine will do way better because of the population base and the commitment from the big time donors here.
So, Swadeep, one of the things that you'd brought up, and I understand that California obviously is a bigger state and larger population. One of the things that when we were doing our endorsement interviews, I forget the exact title of it, but she was not running for school board trustee, but she was running for state school board member.
Education.
Board of Education.
Yeah, so where she oversaw K through 12.
Yes.
And one of the things that she had brought up to me is one of the reasons why we rank so low in overall education is because of how few individuals that we actually have in the state that actually have college degrees, at least at a bachelor's level. Is there any, so my thinking then would be, like, we can't expand the state university system if we don't have more people entering it, correct? So is there any communication or collaboration between you guys and school board trustees as far as like trying to help get more people into the state system, college state system here in Nevada?
It's a great question, but I'm not involved. I'm not elected yet.
Right.
But I would like to see the cooperation. But when my kids were growing up, I knew at that time when I was taking them around the country for the college, UNLV and UNR admission counselors were going to different schools,
Right.
to make sure that these kids who are graduating from local high schools have an option of coming over to UNLV or UNR or even to community colleges at much cheaper cost than going over to, say, out-of-state education.
Is the state universities competing with the private universities like University of Phoenix, like Toro University, and all these other online colleges that are currently here in the state of Nevada, or is the state competing with them, or do they look at them as a partner?
My feeling is they're two different set of businesses, because those who go to local state universities and the community colleges, they're local high school graduates. But like these private institutes like University of Phoenix or National, they are specialized for working adults. So I don't see there's much competition between UNLV, UNR, or University of Phoenix. So that's my take, but I don't know till I get elected.
Right. Could you break down and let the listeners and viewers know exactly what job description is a university regent? What do they vote on? What do they oversee? What do they do in those meetings?
What the Board of Regent does is basically exactly like school board members. They oversee the whole higher education system. The Board of Regent does not get into day-to-day operations of running a college or universities.
You have a chancellor for that.
Chancellor and presidents, but we do hire the chancellor, we do hire the president, we do go to the state legislature for funding.
So you guys oversee their contracts?
Yes, but at the top level, below president and below chancellor, no. That's the internal management has to look into whether whom to hire as a professor or the deans for College of Education, Dean College of Engineering or Business. The board is at a highest level, just like any corporate board.
So do you guys oversee what type of subject matters are coming into the college? Let's say dentistry or whatever, and do you guys oversee the tuition and the cost of materials for the students and what it costs to house a student in one of those dorms that are there? And do you oversee the policies like guys can't bring girls in their room, or you can't carry weapons on school campus, or oversee the police activities that take place on the school property? Do you guys do all of that?
Not all of that, but some of that. Like any increase in college cost, tuition, or anything, any new revenues for the needs to go through the board, they have to approve. And it's sort of sometimes disappointing because recently in December, they raised another huge increase in a lot of college costs, a lot of subjects, where they raise the tuition for the students. So it needs to go through the approval process. Yes, we get the information from the president and the administrators, but we vote on that. But how to manage the dorms, or whom to hire at the dorm, who will be your dorm monitor or dorm, manager, those are internal matters left up to the administration. Yeah.
So one thing that I haven't had the opportunity to look into for a while, is the Millennium Scholarship, is that still in play? Is that still something in the state?
It was in place. I'm not sure if still, but they have, I have to check on that. I don't think so, because they ran out of money.
Yeah.
There was a limited amount of money.
Right, because it was something.
Tobacco settlement.
Right.
And first few years it was very liberal, but then they raised the qualification. It was, right. I think if I'm correct, it started at 3 GPA, but then they raised it to 3.2 because of the financial situation was not that great in the fund. I'm not sure if that still exists. I have to check on that.
Okay. And what about the sports, like the UNLV Rebels and the football team that they have at the college? Do you guys oversee the coaches and oversee their pay as well? And while you're overseeing the coaches' pay, do you oversee the professors' pay? I mean, is that part of the
Board of Regent again doesn't get into routine O&M expenses, including payroll. That's the president of the university, proctor at the university, CEO basically of the university. They decide how to pay, whom to pay, where to pay from. But we do, the Board of Regent goes to the state legislature, as I said before.
And lobby.
Not lobby, to present them the budget, because funding comes from the state legislature.
Right.
So like as I said, I have a background in finance. I will be an asset to the board because I started the budgeting division back in 90s at the Water District, and when I left, it was close to $1 billion budget. So all these institutes, they put the budget together, which includes payroll, sports, dorms, all kinds of state funding. Then they have to convince to the board before the board goes to the state legislature because of the public funding. Once the board decides, yes, we will go to the state legislature for, right now I think it's close to $800 million, $900 million budget, for all the institutions combined. They go to the state legislature and they present the budget. So individual institutes, they present the budget to the board, and then board consolidates and goes to the state legislature. Hey, we need whatever, $500 million to keep these institutions of higher learning in business.
So basically what you're saying is, because of your background, when you go to the legislature and you propose the budget and they say they don't have the money, you're going to say, show me your income statement and your balance sheet, and I'll be able to find the money for you. You can't BS me, is basically what you're saying.
Well, no,
I'm having a little fun.
And would you ask for an audit when you get there?
Oh, yes, I'm a big,
How about a forensic audit?
Yes, strongly believe in administrative audit, which is about productivity audit, efficiency audit. Right. Can we get without sacrificing the quality of service, can we get the same quality of service by going somewhere else and get it cheaper? Yeah, and I'm a strong believer in line item budget. I will look into every line item budget in details rather than one page operational summary, because most of the public sector funding and the commissioners or the city council, they don't have time. They go with the one page, the bureaucrats go with the one page, hey, we need $500 million, here's our revenues, here our expenses, the deficit is only $50 million. But I want to know the details behind those each line item. Why we are spending so much money on some of these, say, consulting contracts or the capitalized projects. The way the economy is going, I will probably like to see to delay to postpone some of these big capital projects to make sure O&M expenses, money is there. And sometimes what happened in the real world, they budgeted for the capital project $200 million for the building, but then they forgot to budget for maintenance on that building. So that's where's the deficit. So I'm a big supporter, big believer in line item budget and audits by independent, not accounting audit, not regular accounting audit, but the productivity and efficiency audit. Because some of the programs in every organization, they started a few years back because there was a need at that time. Do we still need those programs and save money? Yeah. They don't get any more students in those programs. Direct those dollars to some other projects where it's needed. Yeah.
Is there any childcare at the universities for single parents?
Yes,
There
actually it is. It's one of the best. I don't know for sure, but I think it's still there because my kids went there. I remember. And it was open, and I think it's still there. It is attached to Department of Education. That's the best. It's not a child care, but it's a child development, and a lot of professors are involved. That's the best hidden secret in town, because it's not one of those private.
You have kids?
Yes.
How many?
2.
And both of them is in higher education as well?
They graduated. They are doing well in their respective field. About education. My daughter, she completed a doctorate in occupational therapy.
Wow,
So she's OT in Bay Area. My son did his bachelor and master's from Washington, D.C., American University.
And your wife?
My wife, she's semi-retired.
Okay.
So-
Was she a professor as well?
No, she wasn't.
Okay.
But that's my kids went to local high schools here locally. But my kids, when they were little, so about childcare, it's not a childcare, but it's a child development center, and it's open to all the students, faculty, and staff at the university. And
Is it free of cost, or do
no,
they?
it's you pay, but the best
Because you pay.
best education your kid will get at the age 3 or 4.
Really?
Yeah, because professors are involved. It's like a testing lab also for a lot of students. They observe the kids' behaviors, and a lot of students who are at Department of Education, they are part of that so-called development, school development center. And it was not expensive back then. It was very competitive. Only problem is to get in there.
Right.
So to get there, I have to take a class at UNLV so that I can put my kids there.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So how about so the other thing too that is always kind of, and again, someone else is running in a different district than you. We had asked doing our endorsement interviews about tenure. And one of the things that I know kind of frustrates people with tenure on the college professor side of it is that, like, a well-known example, and this was all over the news, this was like 2008, 2009, this was a big deal, was Congresswoman Dina Titus. She was a tenured professor at UNLV for political science, and she was teaching one class a month and making well over 6 figures to teach that one class. And it's because she was a tenured professor. One of the things that this individual brought up was tenure. You don't want to do away with tenure necessarily because you want to be able to retain the best and brightest professors, but at the same time you want to make sure they're working for their 6-figure salary, right?
This question somebody asked me also, one of the voters.
Yeah. So what do you think about tenure? Because the idea that this individual had was, have those tenured professors have to teach so many freshman and sophomore classes, which you have to attend more regularly, so they would actually be in the classroom more.
Actually, tenure system exists only in one business, which is higher education.
Right.
No other business. There's no such thing as permanent job.
Right.
But that's a culture which coming from long back from British time.
Yeah.
Tenure professor, but it's not that easy to get tenure professor
Okay.
ship or tenure because the reason is it's not just teaching. They have to do a lot of research.
Yeah.
They have to raise a lot of money through the different organizations for their research projects. Some professors don't get tenure even after 15 years. Some get within 5 years because they're well known in their field across in the country. So that's the reason. But from outside, it looks bad. With only one class and you're getting 6 figures, but they're involved in a lot of other non-classroom activities. Whether Board of Regents have control over that, probably not. It's the internal system within the university and that president has to do it. And that's very common. And there are some professors who are there. I mean, I know a professor, he's in 90s.
Yeah.
They never leave because of that intellectual depth.
He's in his 90s?
Yeah,
Wow.
at UNLV. Wow. The reason is because they're not making that exorbitant salary, but the university administrations want to retain them because of their name, because of their reputation and their expertise in those fields. Yes.
So then again, and thank you for clarifying that. I've went back and forth on whether I agree with tenure or not, but and then I finally just came to the conclusion that I'm not educated enough to say yes or no on it. But the reason why I asked you that question is because this is the reason why I keep beating a dead horse on this, that voters need to educate themselves.
That's cool.
Because there's a certain amount of voters out there that as soon as you bring that term up, absolutely they hate it.
That's true.
And it's because no one's ever connected the dots. Mm-hmm. So they just think it's all junk and it's all a waste of money. Well, it's not necessarily that. So again, if you educate yourself, then you can actually decide whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, right?
And I will throw something else also. Some professors don't teach at all. They're research professors and they're not getting paid by the taxpayers either. They're funded through the national grants. Say, National Institute of Health donated $10 million to UNLV School of Medicine.
You guys oversee the grant money?
No. Again, everything is, Regent gets information from the president. Let's accept it. And we say, yeah, go ahead. But we don't oversee day-to-day operations.
Okay.
So if some professors say, Jim Jonas has a good project and he applies to National Institute of Health and they give $10 million, but now you need to have an institute. So you join UNLV School of Medicine or UNR School of Medicine, and they will be more than happy to have you because you're bringing $10 million. But they are not paying directly your salary, your research, your lab, your assistants. They're all paid by third-party funding institutions, you know. So, one of my voters actually, when I was campaigning for the primaries, right away she texted me back, oh, my daughter goes to UCLA and her professor makes $500,000 and doesn't teach at all. I said, first thing, I don't know if anybody makes $500,000 at UNLV, but probably he must be a well-known professor in his field, you know, and he's getting a lot of private grants. And now UNLV and UNR are both tier 1 institutions. So there's more money coming over from big corporations as well as public funded research, you know, through the medical school, through the engineering schools. And those employees sometimes are not part of the public payroll. And once the project is done, either they leave or they get new funding from these institutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Nigam, several years ago, there was a very hot topic in the legislative session. In fact, former Assemblywoman Michelle Fury pushed or sponsored this bill, and it was to have weapons on campus carry. And that originated from a young lady up north at UNR. I believe she's concealed carry. She has a concealed carry permit and she has a weapon. but she didn't carry because it was a gun-free
I
zone
remember that.
on campus. So Michelle Fury tried to push this campus carry legislative bill, which got shot down. And the young lady was raped on campus. And she said that, hey, if I had my weapon, I wouldn't have been a victim. I wouldn't have been raped by this guy. How do you feel about campus carry? Do you have any thoughts on it, or would you yourself would like to carry on campus if you are if you become a university regent, or I don't know. How do you feel about campus carry?
I'm open to this, but we need a real honest debate on this issue. Not many people are well familiar with both sides.
Right.
Some are for, some are against.
Right.
I'm independent at this time, I need to learn more. In certain cases, yes. In certain cases, no. But if community wants that, if students want that, then we need strict laws on how to come to the classroom with a weapon. I don't want anyone just to buy a gun and come. They should be properly trained. But at this time, I won't go either way. We need an honest debate. I'm open to it.
Okay.
Sure.
A lot of students are complaining about parking on campus, especially here at UNLV. What's a way to remedy the parking and these meter parkings and all these other stuff that goes on? Is there proper student parking on campus that you know about?
Yeah.
And if there's not, how are you willing to resolve that issue?
It's almost, we are not a rural campus or suburban campus. This is a landlocked campus. Right. There's limited amount of land. Right. There's enough parking, but there may be more needed. But we have to look for different ways to make sure everyone gets a parking. Parking situation is always a tough one for campuses which are part of the inner cities, How I will resolve it, I don't know. Probably there's a lot of land near across I-15. Hey, use Raiders Stadium parking and have a commuter buses all the time. But again, there's not enough land unless there's a 20-acre land and we make 20-story parking space. So I'm not much familiar with what kind of open and vacant land is available in that neighborhood.
Well, UNLV is a tough situation too because it's one of the largest commuter colleges.
Commuter colleges, yeah.
In the country, so that's a tough.
Only, I remember in 90s when they added those dorms, there were no dorms even at one time.
Okay. So University Board of Regents is more like I would think, in my opinion, more like a public relations. How are you going to attract students from different states to come to UNLV or to come to UNR? How is there a plan for that, or?
Okay, I don't have a plan, but it's always a challenge to attract out-of-state students unless you offer them some kind of scholarship. Out-of-state students pay almost double, so there's not much incentive. Right. Why anyone will come from, say, California unless they can get admission there because there's so much demand. But I think there's some agreement with the neighboring states where they pay somewhat less than the normal out-of-state fees. But if you're from, say, Ohio, you have to pay twice as much as local. So there's always an issue with out-of-state students on financially related issues, unless they get some kind of break on their.
Do you know in the local high schools, especially with the seniors, you have recruiters from the military that go there to get people in the military. Mm-hmm. Is there a plan to get more of our high school seniors into college, or is there maybe a task force or something? Mm-hmm. You guys could go and get people to speak to different high schools to get, or students into higher education. Is there
as
a
I
plan
mentioned earlier, but regents don't get involved in these things. This is more an operational issue, but there are admission counselors at UNLV who go to these schools, and pitch their marketing pitch. But in my experience, in my circle of friends, what I've seen is UNLV does not attract the top tier students who are graduating from here.
Why is that?
Like valedictorians or the top. The reason is they get scholarships from well-known schools. I have friends. My friend kid, he's going to Harvard. My friend, another friend, he's going to Yale because they were so smart, so bright. They get good funding. So even if you get a free ride from, say, UCLA, why you will go to UNLV? Even if UNLV gives a free ride to you, UCLA is
well, there's nothing in life free. You got to pay at the end anyways.
But students don't pay. Somebody's paying, the taxpayers is paying. But my goal will be to retain some of the best students who are graduating from high school to go to our local institutions. It's a challenge because they see the future. If you're getting admission at Stanford, it's just the perception also. Stanford is Stanford. Yeah. UNLV's in honors college at UNLV's could be as good as Stanford, but the society respects that seal of Harvard, or Stanford. And most of those friends, my friends, even my kids went out of state. Most of my friends in my circle, in my community, most of the students who are graduating from local high schools are going to out of state, well-known universities because of
how
the
can we keep them
quality.
Here?
It's a challenge. Even with the full ride here, they still go there,
We have about...
And I will give you one example. One of my closest friend, his son graduated from, he was a valedictorian. He went to Stanford, took a 1 year off, traveled the world. Then he applied at UNLV School of Medicine for free. The School of Medicine, first graduating class got full free ride.
Right.
But he got admission at Harvard Medical. And he has to pay $500,000, but still he went there. So you can't force, it's a free country.
We have about 330,000 veterans in the state. That doesn't even include their family members. And the veterans have the SGLI, they have all these other educational programs that the government... How could the... And I know you saying the Board of Regents, the administrators do that, but how could the Board of Regents get involved to get these veterans to use their GI Bill and to use their educational bill and to get their children who also has it and their spouses to also have it to get involved in higher education to get a better job as an engineer or a doctor or dentistry or whatever, veterinarian. How could they put out a mass type of advertisement to attract these types of individuals, veterans, and their families to go in a classroom?
Oh, well, as a regent can direct the president or CEO of these universities to look into it, and I'm not sure if they have dedicated individual at the university handling veteran affairs. My feeling is they already have someone. But are they doing a good job? Are they doing a good going into the veterans community and recruiting these veterans or their family members? I'm not sure. But regents can always direct any new program to the university administrators to look into it and encourage them and come back. And regent will always approve such programs. And if I'm there and if there's something like this, I will definitely vote yes on attracting veterans to the local system of higher education.
Is there a shortage of professors in any one of the universities or community college?
No, I don't think so. There's enough professors here. There are a lot of adjunct faculty also, where people who are expertise in, say, you are a CFO for Bellagio, you can teach some gaming finance. So there are a lot of adjunct faculty as well. And, I don't see any shortage at this time.
One of her ex-co-hosts, Lily Babcock, she does faculty promotion for community college, And I remember that when I used to do collections, I used to, and a lot of people don't know that the average layperson could get a class set up. I used to have a classroom, which a lot of people don't know. I used to have a classroom over there at a satellite office on Sahara, West Sahara, not too far from Palace Station, which there's a
shopping center,
a community college satellite office there. And I used to teach small claims and small claims court and collection law.
Collection management.
And a lot of my students that were there were collection managers from different companies or attorneys that are getting their continuing learning education, and those were my students, and I used to teach this class. But how could the Board of Regent, because a lot of people probably don't even know that they could do this, how could the Board of Regent attract the average layperson to have a class and set up a class at a lot of these satellite areas and teach business management or something
Very
simple like that?
practical,
Practical. So
related,
how could they get the community to start
It's
becoming
already
professors, so to speak?
Oh, yeah. It's already there. I think School of Continuing Education has classes from hiking to boating to even, if I remember, one time they had a class on how to enjoy buffets.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't know about this.
Well, that's again, it says that
how can we get
resources.
the message out? Because communication is key.
Yeah, and they do publish this thick book, 100 pages book, which goes to every household in the city.
Really?
Yeah, it used to be there.
Have you seen this book?
Yeah, because I took classes from there,
Okay.
and they have like sometimes.
Oh, yeah. But I haven't seen one in a while,
So
though.
these days it's all high tech. Everything
It's
is
been
probably
years.
there.
It's been
But
years.
they have to do a better job in publicizing to the community through social media. It's all social media these days, to let the community know that there are wide array of classes. They have classes in gardening even, how they're doing at this stage at this time, and these classes are cheap, like $40 per class or $200 for 2 weeks or 4 weeks class, something like that. They have a lot of those community oriented classes, which is nothing to do with your job. And who teaches these? These are not the professors, these are the actual people. Like you were there because you know the
business.
Credit business, credit management business. And there are a lot of financial related classes also, political classes, all kinds of classes are there. But community doesn't know, you're right, whether they can do a better job in publicizing those classes.
And since you brought up social media, the epidemic has made everybody homebound, right? What's going on with higher education and students in the classroom and professors teaching students online? Well, what's the whole...
Okay.
What's going on with that?
University system just opened, and somebody asked me, first thing, the most important position I take is we have to rely on the experts, on the medical professionals, not politicians. If medical professionals, and they are okay with having in-person classes, I'm perfectly fine. So now they have a mix of, UNR put a 50-60 page program. Same with UNLV has a good program. They just put it together based on CDC guidelines and Southern Nevada Health District guidelines on how to avoid this COVID-19 situation. So UNR is using high flex, they call high flex system, like 2 days in person, 3 days online. So not everyone in that class will be there in person at the same time.
Does the professors get a pay cut because they're doing stuff online?
Actually, they're doing extra work because they have to teach twice now. Half of the class today, the other half tomorrow.
Gotcha.
So they are taking care of, and it impacts not only students but the administrators, the professors. Everybody has to be very cautious about this situation.
So right.
The only thing that, and this is not something that I don't think the State Board of Regents could control, but one of the things I love is when people say, "Well, we got to rely on the experts." Well, I just want to know these experts.
Experts disagree too.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, if the government is paying these so-called experts, I'm not really sure.
No, but these experts are meant CDC guidelines.
Yeah.
Or Southern Nevada, hey, everybody should have a mask. It's not I'm not an expert, but it's still, it's
No,
common
I
sense.
know.
It's a common sense. So guidelines, and they do their own research. You can't be doing all the research for students. Let
Right.
somebody who's expert in the healthcare
Right.
field, let them do it. And sometimes
dig
they are
through the
wrong too,
bios
because it's
yourself.
something new which no one knows.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a regular flu, and now you're hearing even some people who got out of this COVID, they're getting infected again. So it's something new. My guess and your guess
But
is as
it's
good as
it's a
yours.
minor strain that when if they catch it the second time, it's minor. It's not.
But
as,
then some
like the first
schools
time.
like UNC, University of North Carolina, they opened, but then they had to shut it down because students were partying too hard.
Yeah.
They were not.
I heard
keeping those things in
one
guidelines.
university was open, and in a week, 560 people caught the COVID.
Yeah, because of
and they had to shut it
partying.
back down. Well, what is UNLV and UNR and the Community College of Southern Nevada doing about?
They are restricting these big gatherings, and they are, as I said, they are they call high flex system where half of the kids will be in person, the half will be online, then next day the other group can come in person and online. The first group goes online. But like University of Arizona, they did a great job. They opened up the campus, but you have to monitor the situation on daily basis. So they have a testing lab on campus. They are testing every kid, everyone who enters the campus on regular basis. So they have invested on that issue that, hey, we will open the campus, but we'll monitor it. But if 500 kids show up for some big party, probably they will shut it down again.
So is if people don't have the Chromebook or laptop, is one provided to them by the university
I
or
don't
the
think
college?
so.
Or?
The school district is providing, but chances are whosoever goes to college already has one.
Yeah. And there's always
that's-
one or two that
And
don't.
there's one or two probably. there
Maybe
will be
one or two
resources.
professors don't either.
Yeah.
The guy in the 90s.
but I
The guy in the 90s, he don't have a computer.
Yeah. No, he does. But the thing is, he had a computer back in 80s even. But the thing is, issue is about providing, as you said, Chrome. If one or two students, they are good in studies, they cannot afford financially to buy a computer. Probably there are enough resources out of close to $1 billion budget, they can find $1,000 for a kid, or somebody will donate. UNLV Foundation has done a great job in raising money. They have done a great.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, what do they do about students that can't afford to keep up with their
As
tuition?
of today, I haven't heard
payments?
anything. Yeah, this is a very unique campus. 70% of the students are of color, minorities.
70%?
At UNLV.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then many of the students at UNLV are first generation students. Their parents never went to college. They're from different cultural
life,
background
yes.
and different professional life or non-professional life. So UNLV is unique. We need more resources to hold their hand and make sure they stay in college. And it's a huge dropout rate at UNLV because of these issues, because once you are in till high school, somebody is holding your hand. Once you're in college, you are all by yourself in a big sea of students and administrators, So
Yeah, they always say, like, I remember when I came back for my second semester of my freshman year, and in that first day, like every single one of the professors verbatim said congratulations, because 90% of people don't go back for their second semester of their freshman year.
because they're lost. I mean, I would like to see more resources in student counseling, and they do have a lot of. I have a good friend. She's part of admission counseling there over at UNLV, and it's very important to retain these students. But some students who don't want to study, they just wanted to check it out. Let them go.
Right.
But somebody
Yeah.
who are good, someone who's into education, they should not be lost on campus. And I have personal experiences too. They're lost because there's no funding. They're lost, they don't know which classes to take. So some of the professors have to adopt them and personally guide them through the college graduation. And it was in the news yesterday in New Orleans. One security guard did his PhD and doing his MD. He was a security guard at the hospital, but he didn't know what to do. But he came in touch with one of the surgeon there at the hospital. He guided him through, and he's graduating as a physician.
Wow.
So you need more employees on campus, admission counselors, professors who can guide these first generation students.
And that's extraordinary, because there was on the news not too long ago, they had a gentleman who used to be a custodian of a high school and rise to being the principal of that same high school.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Those stories are amazing.
But because he was not lost in the herd of all these students, somebody probably adopted him. I'm saying adoption because professional adoption, to guide that particular individual to move up in the society through education. And as you know, I work for Paul Padda Law. We are all about education. Yeah. Recently, we donated $35,000 to one of the most challenging Title I high schools, Cheyenne.
Wow.
You know, Dr. Robbins. Dr. Robbins is the principal, and we work with him. Why we gave the money? $35,000 from our own money. Why? Because we want the students to succeed, and we are investing that money in ACT and SAT preparation for the high school graduates.
If you have an educated society, you'll have less poverty and less crime.
Yeah,
as simple as that. You know.
And why you asked that question about education? Most of probably you must have heard of my scholarship. I donated $25,000 to think tank Nevada Policy Research Institute, and every year one student gets a scholarship. It's named after my father. But this is again my personal money, because I walk the talk. If I'm passionate about education, do something about it.
Right.
And
put your money where your mouth is, right?
That's correct. So
that's what we do with these shows. Jim, you have anything more for Mr. Nigam?
No, actually, I really want to thank you for coming on. Some of these, it's very, very unfortunate that a lot of people don't understand some of these other races and how important they really are. And just to piggyback on exactly what Steve said, I mean, we all complain about how education's failing and how education in Nevada is terrible and this and that. But, individuals like yourself, obviously you're an extremely successful person. I've known you for a number of years. You don't have to do what you're doing. But you really don't. But I appreciate the fact that you care enough about the community, and I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to come in.
Thank you.
Mr. Nigam, could you look into the cameras and tell the voters why they should go fill out their mail-in ballot and circle your name and put it in that secure sleeve envelope and put it in that envelope that says U.S. postage.
I've done that job already.
Right? And seal the envelope and sign the back of the envelope.
Signed before.
Right? And print their name on it and actually drop it in the mail before or on November 3rd before 7 p.m. Could you explain to them why they need to vote for you and your point of contact?
Well, it's important, as we talked about how education is important. It was my getaway to moving up in the society, and I'm coming from the family of educators. I believe in higher education, so I will request every voter in this town to please vote for me based on my background, my commitment, and my experience, as I've funded a scholarship for the high school students, as well as I've donated money to UNLV Foundation and other causes, especially educational related causes. But it's a tiring process because it will be a long ballot this year, and my name will be all the way down, because you will see that presidents, Trump or Biden's or presidential candidates, then senator, then congressman, assemblyman, then probably 50 judges. But my race will be all the way in the bottom probably. And this happened in the primaries because when I did a lot of data mining and data analysis, what I learned that people who voted in my district, not all voted in my race. Almost 50% of the voters who voted in my district did not vote in my race. There were 56 or 57,000 voters who voted, but in my race only 28,000. So that shows because of the voter fatigue going through every name. So please remember Swadeep Nigam for Regent University System from District 3. And thank you again, Steve, and thank you, Veteran Politics, for inviting me over.
Mr. Nigam, thank you so much for coming on the program. Folks, that's Swadeep Nigam. He is a candidate for University State Regent District number 3, which borders parts of Henderson and Las Vegas. We encourage everybody that lives in his district. It's a nonpartisan race to go and vote for Mr. Nigam. Mr. Nigam is recommended by the Veterans in Politics and also by the Nevada Veterans Association, because we own both, and we recommend Mr. Nigam to be the next regent for District number 3. Why? Because he surpassed his opponent in education. He has a bachelor's, a master's. This guy is all about education. He's doing it because he wants to make other children that are leaving the household be higher in education so they can have a more of a successful job when they go out in the workforce. This guy over here is the one that can do it. So we encourage everybody to vote for Swadeep Nigam for University District number 3. I'm getting tongue-tied. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Until next time.